Hello everyone, it's Karina with Karina Loves to Plan. Welcome back to my channel. So it is that time of year where we get to do a little review of everything in our fountain pen and ink journey. So what I wanted to share with you today were my least favorite inks as well as my most favorite inks that I have tried in 2023. And just to go over some stats with you as well, this year I purchased 21 ink samples, which for a lot of people is not a lot. And then I had purchased, I was gifted 112 samples. So that is from the absolute generosity of the people in the fountain pen community. So thank you so much. And then I was able to use or give away 135 ink samples. So that number kind of went into the negative in terms of acquisitions. And then for ink bottles purchased, my plan for 2023 was not to purchase any ink bottles, but I purchased 6. And then I was gifted 7 ink bottles, but then I was able to sell or give away 17 ink bottles. So that number in itself kind of balances out in a way. So with this review of my least favorite, my most favorite, I'm really going into just what I have tried in 2023 or purchased in 2023. So let's get started. With my least favorite inks, I won't be swatching these because I no longer have them. So for me, if I am not enjoying an ink or if I am not enjoying a pen, it is no longer staying in my collection. So these inks that I currently have in my hand in terms of their swatches, I no longer have samples of or bottles of because I have given them to other people who will appreciate them more than I do. So let's go over each and every single one. And I just realized they're in backwards order alphabetically. So the first ink in the least favorite category is the Colorverse Pillars of Creation. And just as a note, these are swatched on Rhodia paper. So it has a purple undertone with a green sheen, and on Tomoe River paper, that sheen was just very, very overpowering. Somebody had kindly gifted me a whole bottle of this, but it really just isn't for me. Now, I really like the base purple of it, but the green sheen just really overpowered it on Tomoe River paper. So this was one of my least favorite inks of 2023. Next up on that list is Ferris Wheel Press Chidori Cherry Blossom. This was sent to me by Scientist Plans, and while the swatch is just stunning, it was very, very hard to write with. It was very light, and I felt that the shimmer clogged whatever pen that I had put it in. It was not an enjoyable experience. So I'm very careful with Ferris Wheel Press shimmer inks because I know that if the base ink is very light, the shimmer is not going to do anything to redeem the qualities of that ink. So if anything, the shimmer is just going to make it that much more illegible. So adding to the list of my least favorite inks for 2023, Ferris Wheel Press Chidori Cherry Blossom. Next, we have Herbon Bleu Azur. This was sent to me by a viewer, and I'm always so grateful to be able to try new inks, not just to get free inks, but also to expand the inks that I've tried throughout my fountain pen ink journey. And this one, while it is pretty, writing with it felt like writing with highlighter. I guess the tone of the ink could be very, very light and illegible in some writing samples. In the swatch, it was beautiful, but then writing with it could be a little bit too light. And I found myself with the flow of the ink, it felt a little dry as well. So I found myself trying to press harder on my fountain pen to be able to get a better flow. And this is not something you should be doing with your fountain pen, pressing hard because of a dry ink. So unfortunately, this one is both dry and too light, and that was Herbon Bleu Azur. Next, KWZ Brown Pink. Main reason for me not liking this is because it is not brown, it is not pink, it looks purple. It looks purple, and I have a lot of other inks. I'm very much into the dusty pinks. You guys know me. This, I have some inks that are brown and pink, or a really good combination of the two, but this is just not it. So I was not a fan of KWZ Brown Pink. I know some people are, but this just wasn't it for me because Main reason, it's purple, not brown or pink. The next one on my least favorite list was Pelikan Edelstein Rose Quartz. So I got a bottle of this at the Pelikan Hub in September, and I gave it a try. I felt the ink personally for me was a little dry, but also I don't know if I'm a fan of this shade of ink. It feels very cool tone in the pink category, and you've got a little bit of purple. While it is very pretty, I felt writing with it, I wasn't a fan of that tone of pink. So again, dry, not a fan of that tone. So Pelikan Edelstein Rose Quartz. Next, Vinta Blue Blood Duzong Bugao. So you can already see the sheen on that. This gave me a headache. I am very light sensitive, so sheen, if you're under light, is just so bright. And while the base of the blue is really pretty, the sheen just overpowered it, and it was very hard for me to read, but also very hard for me to write with. So Vinta Blue Blood Duzong Bugao is not for me and is one of my least favorites of 2023. I think there's a theme with the sheening inks here. Next, Wearingeul Huaneng. Now, I went through a phase where I really was trying to search for a nice light blue ink because I fell in love with Diamine Cadon Cat, spoiler. But then I tried a few, and there's actually a few in this category, but I will list them off after. So when trying to write with this ink, it was actually way too light. I want to pull out, where is it? When I actually sampled all of these, and don't worry, I will do a proper flip through of this once I have it all. So when I originally swatched it, like, look at how light that is. And in the writing sample in Tomoe River paper, it's a beautiful, beautiful ink, but actually putting it in a pen, it was dry. I was not a fan of how light it was. So this one was sent off to somebody else to enjoy, because unfortunately the Wearingeul Huaneng, which is not for me. The next one, which comes along this same family, is Wearingeul Moby Dick. I had used this in my Narwhal Voyage Tromso because I thought it was a perfect match, but I found this ink to be dry and too light, and I really struggled with the writing sample and with writing with it in general. I felt like I was pushing harder on the nib to get more of a flow, and like I said before, this is not something you should be doing. So mixing that together, it was light and it was dry, not a great combination, so not one of my favorites for 2023. Then we have Wearingeul Vial. Again, all around the same time that I purchased all of these Wearingeul inks. Very light and dry. That's all I can say. It's beautiful, and I think it would be great for painting with, but it's very light in the writing sample, and I just wasn't a fan of how dry and light it was. So Wearingeul Vial. Then Wearingeul Suku Yomi. Again, same category as these other three. They were light and they were dry. So unfortunately, not for me, but I know that there are some people who appreciate this and have wetter pens and broader pens that they can use this in. But because I normally use fine or extra fine, these are just too light and too dry to be putting in fine and extra fine nibs. Last one in that category as well is Wearingeul Resurrection. You can see in the swatches that these are really pretty colors, really pretty inks, but even in the writing sample, even with just my Kakimori brass nib, you can tell it was just going to be too light, and then in an extra fine or fine nib, it would have been too dry and too light. So these are my least favorite inks. Gosh, there were a few least favorite inks of 2023. So let's move to my favorite inks of 2023. I will be swatching my favorite inks in my ink journal in the Tomoe River paper. So I have enough to fill these 2 pages. So The first ink on my favorites list, and I'm going through these in alphabetical order, that's the only order, they're not in most favorite order, is Birmingham Penco Armadillo. And this was given to me by a viewer, and I'm so thankful. So what I'm going to do with swatching is actually experiments with something that I just got the other day. These are Speedball bee nibs, and I'm going to do a circle with these. Trying to anyway. Normally I would use my sample ink vial, but I wanted to try and experiment with these. What I love about the Birmingham Penco inks is that they are, a lot of them are chromo shading, but also they flow really well in a pen. So we have, and this is my Kakimori Brass nib on my River City Penco nib holder, and I will include all of that information down below. So this is Birmingham Penco Armadillo. And what I love about this again is that chromo shading. Is it gray? Is it purple? Is it pink? And you can see it in the different line widths here. How interesting this ink is. Really beautiful. So that is the first on my favorites list, and you will see that there are a few Birmingham Penco inks on here. The next is Birmingham Penco Barley, and I'm always looking for a really lovely yellow that is still legible, and this one was lovely, beautiful, and this was given to me by the lovely Pam, so thank you so much, Pam, for this. Gosh, look at it. Gorgeous. So washing off that nib, making sure I don't get water on the paper. But what I liked about this is that it was light enough without being so garishly yellow in your face, but still legible. So it almost reminds me of Ombre de Burmanie for Herbon, but I really liked the consistency of this particular ink and really enjoyed writing with it. Look at that. So that is Birmingham Penco Barley. The next is Birmingham Penco Pennsylvania Fieldstone, and I'm gonna say I could put almost every Birmingham Penco ink that I have tried in this list because I really enjoyed them all. I had to make it fair to some of the other inks that I tried. So this is a really pretty grayish purple, and when it dries, it's so interesting. I really like it. And this one I think was sent to me by Priscilla. Priscilla was really lovely in sending me these gorgeous inks. Make sure I have enough on the nib there. So Birmingham, oop, too much. Penco, Pennsylvania. Let's make sure I spell that correctly. Fieldstone. I'm reminded of Sleepless in Seattle, the Dr. Marcia Fieldstone in the movie. Whoop. I can still get that line in there. Perfect. And you can see as it's drying how complex this ink is. It starts off this purple, but now I feel like it's a little pink or a little gray. I really enjoyed this one. So that was Birmingham Penco Pennsylvania Fieldstone, and I actually think that is the last of the Birmingham Penco inks that I have as a favorite. But the next one, and I'm trying to find it in my ink samples here we go, is Diamine Cadon Cat. This was a Reddit ink, so I don't know if it's every year or every other year the users on Reddit, the fountain pen community on Reddit, vote on an ink, and this as well as Sailor's Warning were the two that were chosen for 2023. And you'll see why I like this. It's a lighter ink, but it's a wetter ink. So combining those two, it actually isn't too light that it's not legible. It's actually perfect. So let's do these lines here so that I don't, see, look at that. I love that. So Diamine Cadon Cat. I don't know the significance behind the name, but I really, really enjoy this ink. I like the shading of it. I like the tone of this particular blue. I really like this light, kind of smoky blue. So that is Diamine Cadon Cat. Now, looking at my list here, the next one is a recent one. I say recent one, but it was recent for me. This is from Diamine. It's from the Inkvent calendar of 2022. This is Diamine Olive Swirl. And I really enjoyed this one because, as you'll see here shortly, it's this gorgeous olive color, go figure. Oh, I got a little blue in there. Olive color with a lovely shimmer. So what I liked about this, other than the tone and the shading and the shimmer, was that I could use this in, I used this in a stub nib, I believe, and I really enjoyed it. It was, had great flow, really, really good shading as well. And I felt that the shimmer, compared to other shimmer inks, was quite consistent. But sometimes you get that where you get a lot of shimmer at the beginning of the writing sample and then it kind of dies down by the end. This one, with Diamine shimmer inks in general, I get better consistency with shimmer inks than I do with others. So that is Diamine Inkvent Olive Swirl. Next is another Inkvent, and it is Diamine Ule Log. I have this currently in my Leonardo Momento Zero in Violette, and this has an extra fine nib actually, and it still works really, really well. I know some people hesitate putting shimmer into extra fine or fine nibs because they're afraid it will clog, and I have not experienced that with this pen or this ink. It's a beautiful, gorgeous brown, and then you will see the shimmer here shortly. Oh, pretty. And the flow is just where I like it, about a 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, so a little bit better than average flow for the ink. And then the shimmer is also quite consistent. Why am I closing that? I'm closing that before I've done the writing sample. So I'm using my Kakamori brass tip pen. Writing in this particular journal when you're getting to the end is so difficult now because it's so chunky. I'm so excited to show you the full flip through once this is all complete. Oh gosh, I really, really enjoy that ink. Yes, there is some recency bias to it, but I really enjoy it. The next on my favorite inks list was one that I decided I needed a whole bottle of. I got a small sample from Miss Marilyn Darling, and after I received it from them, I was like, I have to get a full bottle. It is Dominant Industry Autumn Forest, and it is such a beautiful ink, but also behaves really, really well in a pen. I had this in a stub nib, gosh, when was it? Probably right after I got it, I put this into a stub nib, and it's so gorgeous. Oh, Lucy's under my feet here. And it has this pink shimmer, this rose shimmer that I adore. But you can also see that I've used a little bit more than half the bottle because I've also sent samples to friends because I just can't recommend it enough. So, ooh. Oh, that's not straight. That's okay. So Dominant Industry Autumn Forest. I love this ink enough that I needed to buy a whole bottle. And I did say at the beginning of 2023 I wouldn't be buying any bottles, but that did not happen. So Dominant Industry Autumn Forest. You're going to see it dry in a sec here, but that pink shimmer is fantastic. Looking back at Ule Log, you can see that kind of bronzy shimmer there as well. Next we have Dominant Industry Maple, and I think I was sent a small sample of this by Miss Marilyn Darling, and then I fell in love with it, and I'm trying to remember who sent me more. I apologize if I don't remember who sent me more of this, because I'm always grateful when somebody goes out of their way to be kind, and I'm so appreciative of every single person who watches my channel. So thank you. And I love this because it's a more of a red orange, but muted to the point where I use this reference a lot. It doesn't punch you in the face with the ink. It's a less saturated reddish orange, and I really like the flow of this as well. It was beautiful to use in my pens, and I think I also have a bit of an emotional tie to maple because I live in Canada, but also my address has the word maple in it. Beautiful. Oh, isn't that gorgeous? And it shades beautifully. So for me, the important characteristics of an ink are that it's not a sheener, that it flows well, and it's not dry, and it's also easy to clean out. Being easy to clean out is a huge thing. Ooh, so the next ink, make sure I have the correct one. The next ink was also, I say recent, but it was a purchase in 2023. So all the inks that I'm listing here were purchases, or are purchases from 2023. Gosh, it is Diamine Cabernet on the Lake, and this was part of the Woven Warmth collection that I got from Atlas Stationers, and I used this. Got it all over my fingers. Gosh, so this was really beautiful for the Christmas season, and I apologize that it is now all over my fingers. But Cabernet on the Lake is a perfect name for it, and it's got a beautiful shimmer. Notice that, yes, I am drawn to the shimmer inks. I'm hoping that this will pick up the shimmer. Like, look at that. It's not too dark of a red. It really looks like a good Cabernet. Not that I know my red wines very well, but this flowed really, really well in my Pelikan M800. The shimmer was gorgeous, or is gorgeous, and the flow, fantastic. But again, the Pelikan M800 is a wet flowing pen anyway, so the two together were just wonderful. So that is Ferris Wheel Press Cabernet on the Lake. My next favorite is Ferris Wheel Press Peter Moss, and you can tell I don't have a lot of this left, but I do absolutely love it. Sorry, Lucy's turning around in her bed, which is underneath my desk here. So if you hear anything, that's her. I'm actually really enjoying using these Speedball B nibs for the swatching. Oh, see, isn't that such a beautiful, gorgeous green? And I have used it in some of my paintings as well, and it flows beautifully. A lot of people say that Ferris Wheel Press inks are dry, but you see here, I have two on this list that were not that dry. I really, really enjoyed using them. So Ferris Wheel Press. Now, obviously there's going to be a difference between using this on the Kakimori brass nib versus, Peter Moss, versus a fine or extra fine nib, but I did use it in a fine or extra fine nib, and it flowed beautifully. Love that. Oh, isn't that such a gorgeous green? Beautiful. I will probably need to buy a bottle of this. And I said I wouldn't buy more bottles, but I know, does that go in my green category? Oh well. All right, so the next one I did buy a bottle of. It is Teranishi Opera Rose. And this one, I had debated buying it from Paper Plus Cloth in Toronto or St. Louis Art Supply. In the end, I ended up buying it from St. Louis Art Supply, and I hated not supporting a Canadian retailer, but in the end it ended up actually being cheaper buying from St. Louis versus Toronto. What I love about this ink, and I fell in love with this ink when I first sampled it, is that people say this is not a dusty pink. I like it. It looks like a dusty pink to me, but it is more coral, more browny orange, but I love it. So Teranishi Opera, Opera, oh well, Rose. And, ooh, uh-oh, there was something else on that. Gotta clean that out. What I like about it is that, again, it flows well, even in fine or extra fine nibs. The shading is beautiful, but also just the color is so unique. So, so unique. I absolutely love that. So that is Teranishi Opera Rose. We're down to the last two here. So the next one is one that was sent to me by Shazia of Blessed It, Canada. And it was one that I didn't think that I would really like, but once I swatched it, it was amazing. It was Van Diemen's May, and this is another shimmer ink, and it's fantastic. Now let me shake that up. Look at that. So here we go. This is Van Diemen's May, and it's this beautiful, rich purple. With this gold shimmer and green sheen. Now, I don't mind sheen when it's mixed with shimmer. I'm very weird about that. I don't mind sheen when it is mixed with shimmer, strangely enough. But I think it's because the shimmer counteracts some of that sheen so that it's not all taken over by the sheen. Because in some inks, the sheen just goes nuts. Now, I do have to say, I don't know if this ink is available anymore, so I apologize for that, but this was one of my favorite inks that I tried this year. Like the mix of the sheen with that gold shimmer and that purple is stunning, stunning. It is very similar to, you know, I think it was very similar to Colorverse Pillars of Creation. Let me find that here. But the sheen took over this, whereas the shimmer really helps to balance that. So I liked that type of shade, but the sheen just was too much for me. So adding shimmer to that made a huge, huge difference. And even in this next one, this last one was one that I wasn't expecting to like, and I'm almost out of it. It is Vinta Paro. This one was sent to me by Katie, and this one is also a sheening shimmer ink. And this one I currently have inked in a pen, but I will probably need to buy another sample of this because this is a great Christmas ink as well. I'm trying to dig in there for the last little bit of that. But it is a gorgeous saturated green. And then when it dries, you're going to see a bit of a red sheen and beautiful, beautiful shimmer. So you'll notice here that there are a few shimmer inks on this. I do like my shimmer inks. And I also use fine and extra fine nibs. So I don't shy away from using shimmer inks in my fine or extra fine nibs, because this one actually flowed quite well. And it's currently, well, I wanted to maximize the shimmer and the sheen in this, so I have it actually right now in a fine Architect nib, but it is stunning. I will have to buy another sample of this or a bottle if I can find it. So that is Vinta Paro. So there are all of my favorite inks for 2023. Were any of them a surprise to you, or were any of them exactly what you expected. Let me know down in the comments below. As for my least favorite inks, what did you think of this list? Do you agree, disagree? Again, let me know down in the comments below. I was so happy to be able to make a video like this to summarize what I've acquired this year, and I've tried so many inks from the generosity of people sending me inks. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to try so many. But that is it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. Otherwise, don't forget to hit that like button and to subscribe. Thanks for watching and have a great day.